Now, taking a look at the maps, Roddy, what do you think about this lineup?
We see a very different Vito, right? Because last series we actually saw Winter's Gate being played, and this time that's not happening. So we'll see. I mean, it's a best of 5. I think that these two are very evenly matched. And yes, Rogue is full of confidence, but I'm feeling Classic, so I think we're going to see a bunch of games anyway.
All right, let's get into it. Down in the bottom right of Thunderbird, a previous World Championship, he is Rogue. And of course, in the top left, one of the best Protosses for years and years. Give it up for Classic.
What I love a lot about Classic is that you can't really put him in a certain category, right, as a Protoss player. He's not cheesy, he doesn't always macro, he doesn't just love Stargate openings. Like, no, he's just kind of one of these Protoss players that can do it all. Whatever is popular, whatever is strong, whatever suits the meta, Classic is capable of playing it and executing it at the very highest level.
Well, let me say something I think about Classic. I want to see what you think of this, Roddy. I think as far as planning goes, he might be the best, or at least a top 2 Protoss in that regard. This guy just plans out amazingly intricate builds. In fact, we see here, this is really tricky. He's trying to make this look like it's a cannon rush, but of course, we can see on the production tab, he has no such plans.
No, maybe this is also just testing out the waters for the entire series, right? Where it's just like, let's see how you react. Like, you don't respect this? Well, next time there will be a forge, right? But no, I'm with you. He's absolutely fantastic when it comes to planning out. I mean, you get to see a lot more of that than I do in general, but in the GSL, he has shown up. Like, he comes up with these proxy locations where you're like, that doesn't even make sense, Classic. That can't work. And surprise, surprise, it does work. Now, what I'd love to see this series is, like, we're always going to see a Stargate play, right? That's just going to happen. But I'd love to see him sprinkle in a glaive build as well. Like, Trap only did it once in the best of 5. And it wasn't even like the damage that I think you're dreaming of as a Protoss, but it was still good enough to win the game. And I think some of those openings are a little bit underused.
Well, we'll see if he mixes that in a little bit. I have already seen his probe kind of in a funny location, so I think he's got an interesting opener for us here. It looks like it is just going to be a Stargate. In the meantime, of course, we have Rogue scouting absolutely everywhere with his Zerglings.
Yep. Maybe that early probe did kind of scare him, and even though that pylon wasn't real, like there's still a good chance that you're going to proxy something.
Like you said before, this is something Classic's known for. He will hide something in the last place you will scout it. I don't know how he figures that out, but Rogue is showing a lot of respect here searching the map.
Now, of course, Classic had plenty of things to work with when it comes to the way that Rogue likes to play this matchup. We saw a lot of the Nidus Swarmos, Roaches in the round of 16. Now, I don't really see any reason for Rogue not to keep doing that, right? Because he was getting a lot of very convincing, and I would almost say easy victories with that build. So I also feel that Classic, I mean, the ball's in your corner, right? You've had 5-6 days here, beautiful weather, sit on your balcony. You have plenty of time to theorize on how he wants to tackle that playstyle.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. And I mean, opening up with the Oracle, this is a pretty standard opener here from Classic. As far as Rogue goes, just playing a defensive game, he's throwing down his spores, of course. That weird placement of the Stargate, Rogue hasn't seen it yet. He can't confirm that there's an Oracle on the way.
Spores are going up though, so he's maybe expecting something. If you don't know what you're going up against, you have to worry about Stargate, but you also have to worry about very quick Dark Templars, something that Classic is not afraid to throw in either. The Queen's a bit out of position there, but a very good reaction by Rogue when it comes to pulling the drones away.
Yeah, he had a good idea that that could be coming. No damage as of yet, but Classic's staying annoying here. He keeps these Adepts over here. The Queen's going to come down to help clear them out. Of course, they will shade to safety.
They're getting out of there. So far, I like it by Classic. Right? He's not reckless. He's not losing any units. He's not eating too much damage. No, like all of this is streamlined. And I think especially the Adepts are a very undervalued part in this phase in the game. Because all the focus is always like, oh, is the Phoenix going to fly in? Is it going to lift the Queen? And will the Oracles kill all the drones? Yeah, sometimes they do. But don't forget that 2 Adepts shading into a base where the Queens are not at can also deal a lot of damage.
Indeed they can. These 2 Oracles come in, they get 3 different drones. Meantime, finally Rogue finds where that mystery Stargate is, but the Overlord will be taken out by this Phoenix while Classic takes his 3rd base.
Twilight Council +1, so far this is all very macro-oriented when it comes to Classic. Can we take a look at those Adepts? Are those still out on the map somewhere? Is Classic hiding them in the ace? Keeping them over here on the right side, or left side there.
Yeah, not doing anything too sneaky as of yet. A Warp Prism on the way, maybe to help utilize those Adepts a little bit more in the future here.
There's some very cool plays you can do. These Oracles still being annoying. We saw Trap perhaps a bit nervous, a bit jittery in the first 2 games when it came to that Oracle control. Well, Classic will also end up losing an Oracle here, but up to that point, it was pretty good.
All right, well, the speed overlords are done. They're searching around in the main base, not really finding anything. I love that Classic is just leaving his main base empty, devoid of tech for now. Everything valuable more at the natural.
There's not even a pylon in the main, right?
No.
Okay, you don't see that very often.
I feel like he knows that Niduses are coming, and the main is most likely base to fall.
He's like, if my main ever goes down, well, it's just the Nexus. I'll take that somewhere else. We'll see if this is... you can do some very cool stuff with just a couple of Adepts and a Warp Prism, but now we're going to get some Archons as well, so that means he's most likely going to be forced to drop the Adepts out. And maybe you can shade those into the natural. Oh, I got lost. A little bit late there.
Yeah, is he actually going to end up losing this Archon? Actually, quite a nice pick-off there by Rogue.
I don't understand why A didn't drop the Adepts quicker and B didn't morph the High Templars quicker, right? Because there was time, they were done, they were just kind of chilling there.
I think he didn't believe that that was going to occur. You never really see Zerglings jump on that, but a smart move.
Rogue doing Rogue things, meanwhile, dropping the Infestation Pit, dropping the Nidus Network, and making more roaches. And don't forget about that queen count, it's quite high. A couple of these queens are a little bit exposed here in the front, though.
Yeah, look at this. Classic's starting to put on some real pressure here, charging up, taking out some of these queens, keeping the pressure on, the single Archon coming up as well.
Imagine if there were 2 Archons here, that would have been devastating, that would have been so much more scary. Now a lot of additional roaches have been produced. So I think at this point, Rogue should be able to deal with this with just a bit of micro. That Prism, by the way, is in trouble.
Well, looks like he dives in with everything and just barely gets out with that Warp Prism. A good save. And let's not forget, he did see that the Nidus is up, so that's something that he can prepare for at home.
Yeah, he doesn't have a lot, though. I mean, that was quite expensive what Classic just did there. I think after losing that Archon before this party even started, maybe he shouldn't have committed that hard. Getting a couple of roaches is cool, getting a couple of queens is very nice, but at this point you're going to be forced to back off, and he's going to be forced to be defensive for a very long time.
Well, look at just how forward Rogue is about this. Fly 2 speed overseers right into the main base, get those Niduses going.
Well, the Forge is actually a lot of trouble here. That means no +2 for Classic.
Yeah, big deal right there. In the meantime, the Nidus finishes up. Rogue sending roaches here into the main base, going after a whole bunch of these probes. And the second Forge finishing up, not even going to be powered anymore.
These roaches are going to get out of there for now as well. Don't forget, 12 Swarmos are on the way. So this is just the beginning of Rogue's party.
This is what Rogue is so strong at. He has been crushing all of the world's best Protosses with this exact play. The Nidus and the Swarm host just launching in wave after wave of Locusts, going after that economy for Protoss. It's such a hard thing to fight against, but Classic knows he has to be active.
It's insane how quickly that supply explodes, right, for Rogue. It's like he's at 140, he's 150, now he's close to maxed out. I guarantee you a minute from now he will actually be maxed out, and then the Zerg will start building up that bank. First wave here, it's not getting too much done. Good moves there by Classic with the Warp Prism as well, but it's not just about the first wave. He's going to have to do this 5-6 more times.
He's going to have to get out there somehow and clear these, because if you let Rogue dictate the game like this and launch in his Locust at will, you are never going to hold on. Looks like Classic tries to come down the ramp, but Rogue's army just too strong right now.
Yep. I mean, there's still quite a few Ravagers that you have to respect. You got to respect the Lynx as well. They can surround you with Stalkers and Immortals. Classic can only do one thing, that's I would say build a few more batteries, use those batteries and just defend.
All right, we'll see how that works out for him if he does. A lot of Stalkers out right now. The Locust jumping in. He's starting to use his Blink Micro to get back, but a lot of damage coming in right now.
Well, there was a Stasis Trap in the middle there, trapping a couple of these Ravagers. That's cool, but the Stalkers are having a tough time dealing with all these Locusts. Rogue, meanwhile, is still maxed out. Classic also lost power to a couple of his gateways. That can be quite frustrating.
Let's see if Classic can get out here and push him back right now. The Stasis actually keeping his Immortals stuck in the main base. Bring back this Prism to help out. The Stasis wears off, and Rogue keeps that pressure on.
Yeah, Rogue's spending all of his money. He's being reckless here, but he can afford it because he's rich. He's got the supply lead. He's getting a couple of roaches in the main base now as well. And Classic's army is becoming smaller and smaller. Not having that +2, I think, was very painful there as well.
Yes, indeed. And with these locusts coming up, Classic with almost nothing left over. This is looking very rough. Oh, the dive in, killing off an Immortal, killing off these buildings as well as Cybernetics Core falls. And Classic just doesn't have much left.
It almost feels like Rogue is doing this now in a disrespectful manner. He's like, yeah, we can drag this out, but that's really unnecessary. Like, I've got too much. You can't possibly be dealing with this. Rogue is maxed out. He's spending every single penny that he has on these roaches, on these links, and he's just rallying everything. Well, Nidusing everything to the other side of the map.
Just Niduses everywhere at this point, throwing more and more down. And GG is called. Rogue takes game number 1 in somewhat dominating fashion.
Yeah. You know, I think you brought this up on one of the segments we had on one of the couches, where it's like, yes, Rogue does this very fast, and he's amazing with the Roach Nidus farmers, but he often does it very greedy. He makes like 5 roaches, and then he just starts building Nidus networks and 12 swarmers. So maybe you can attack him before that. I think that's kind of what Classic was planning on here. Even though he was rich, he had a good economy. He's like, I know that Rogue's a greedy boy. I can punish him, but I think losing that one Archon before it even started, I think at that point, even though the plan is good, and it could have worked, because Rogue was indeed, once again, very greedy, I think once you lose an Archon like that, you gotta abandon the plan.
Yeah, you know what? He dived in deeply as well with those Oracles. And when you start losing Oracles, when you don't have the energy, it's going to be harder to actually find where those Niduses are going down and deny them. That with the failed attack at the front, like you pointed out, I feel like those two things together, as soon as Rogue saw that, he's like, okay, this game's going to be easy from here.
Thunderbird is also tricky, right? Because you can, like, having 3 bases easily as a Protoss is awesome, and then suddenly, like, you're like, I'm kind of contained over here. Like, it's hard to get to those Nidus networks. Maybe actually mining out some of those minerals on the right side of your third base could be useful. But that's a difficult call to make, because then if 20 links run in and they start dealing economic damage, you regret that decision again.
Yeah, that's for sure. Definitely very difficult to play in this type of situation. It's what Rogue really excels in, but just the fact that Classic tried to be aggressive gives me hope for him in the rest of the series.
Absolutely. I think that attack had a lot more potential with 2 Archons. And I'm not saying that he would win the game there, but you can just get more done. Maybe get a Kanto actually on that first infestation pit or the Nidus network. Whatever building was very exposed there in the front. If Zealots get some service area on that, I mean, the world is your oyster.
Indeed it is. Well, Thunderbird is gone, and it is one of our big macro maps. But you know what, Ronnie? Let's go into another big macro map. We're going to Acropolis second.
Yeah, they're all kind of big here, right? I think the one that isn't big is Triton, and even that is relatively big. That's just kind of the story of this WCS Global Finals map pool.
All right, starting out here in Acropolis, in the bottom right of the map, winning game 1, it's Rogue. In the top left, playing a solid game, but unable to hold on, it's Classic. And here we go. What does Classic have planned for us here? You know, it's funny, I just keep on asking that about Classic, because I know what Rogue has planned. He's going to try to stay alive and then go Nidus the second he feels that you are not going to attack him.
If Rogue would have a pre-game interview here, he'd probably say it as well. He's like, normally I don't want to talk about strategies, but in this case it's okay, because I'm really confident with that.
Yeah.
We know that if he can get there in a comfortable spot, he's absolutely going to do that. But it wouldn't be too crazy to think that Rogue is going to switch it up at least once or twice, right?
Yeah, it would make sense for him to do so, but if he just keeps winning with it...
Yeah, then why even bother?
Yeah.
maybe the moment he starts losing with it, he can try to clean it up, do it again, and then start switching it up to make it a little bit harder for his opponents.
Yeah.
We'll see what Classic has in store for us.
I'm really excited to see what Classic has planned, because the thing is, Classic does prepare well. He figures out what type of strategies he should be using, and then he really prepares them, practices them well. And if you really look at the WCS Global Finals so far, you know, we started them last week, and all the Protosses that did a good job against these Zergs, players like Hero, like Trap that we just saw, like Neeb, their more aggressive games were the ones where they could deny these Niduses, just stop them from ever appearing. So I feel like that's really where Classic needs to bring this series.
Yeah, and I also feel that the one-off builds for Protoss have been having a lot of success, right? The glaive openings, you don't see it every game for all the right reasons, because then it becomes too easy for Zerg to deal with it. But they've been having a good success rate. The double Stargate, only saw it once, but that had a good success rate. Even a couple of just the proxy Stargates, right? Just anything that's a little bit different than the super standard Phoenix into 2 Oracles, sit back and go into Archons Immortals has actually done quite well. And of course it makes sense. You can't be doing that over and over again as a Protoss, but you do want to throw it in there. You want to keep it fresh.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Now, Classic is going for a Stargate again, so definitely wants to get that air control, push away some Overlords with the Phoenix, maybe do some harassment with those Oracles. We'll see what he does afterwards.
Yeah. I mean, getting some early damage done would be fantastic, right, within an Adept. Sometimes just getting a first, you know, it's actually kind of funny, because there's quite a few European players that like to be super reckless with their first Adept. They just like shade it into the middle line. And like, I'd say if you can get 2 drones with your first Adept, then it's worth it, right? But whenever I try it, I get 0. And I'm like, this never works. Like,
yeah, it's not supposed to, so don't feel bad about that.
Classic not doing that. He's a little more cautious.
Well, again, you know, if you lose anything extra... Oh, what is this over here?
It's actually really weird. Well,
yeah, it's a very peculiar time to put a pylon out on the map.
It has to be a gate, though, right?
I would imagine it would be a gateway. A Twilight, you say?
Okay.
I mean, would this just be for Dark Templar? Is that... I can't really think what else you're going to do with this hidden out there.
I don't know. It's risky as well, because you don't want to be losing a Twilight count. So if the game drags on, I feel like you can proxy a lot of things in this matchup and be okay and transition out of it. Maybe Glaives.
Oh,
or
yeah,
just super fast charge.
charge.
Yeah, it has to be one of the two.
That's well, if you're putting that many gates out there, this is a big time all-in Classic.
Yeah.
Not leaving any room for error. He is either going to kill Rogue, or this game is going to make Rogue up 2-0.
Well, we've seen this in the past. Classic with his proxy Twilight. Sometimes, but definitely proxy gateways where he hits with the Adept Times. He's getting a Robo behind all of this as well. I wonder if that's just to get a War Prism in the main base, right? So you can hit on both sides.
Is the Robo over here, though? Yeah, I think this is to throw off his opponent. You know a Speed Overlord's going to be coming in.
Double Stargate, like he's like, hey, I'm going double Stargate over here.
Oh, okay.
Build drones, Rogue. You want to build all the drones. I love how he starts the Phoenix
my
too.
God. This is a brilliant move from Classic. He's trying to signal that he's going to go Mass Phoenix, which is the furthest thing from what he's doing.
Yep. It's like second. This is amazing. I wonder if Rogue is buying it. He's still building.
Might be.
Okay, now that's the scout though, Artolsis. Now that's the scout that you want. You can cancel all of that Classic that you had. Rogue is going to build roaches and nothing but roaches. I would say he's building an Evo chamber. Why is he doing that?
Well, maybe to get upgrades for his Locust. Well, of course, we're not there quite yet.
He's abandoning the third base.
Yeah, I think so. He realizes just how dangerous this could be. Immortals on the way, more Adepts being created.
But I would say, if you're Classic and you can just kill that hatchery and then you can disengage, I'm not saying give up your entire proxy, but I would be quite happy with killing this hatch.
He's on 45 probes. I don't mind it.
No.
He is going to end up killing this hatchery. There's no doubt about that, at least.
And then you want to shade back, though, because you do want to keep all those gateways alive, right? That's the big downside as a Protoss player. If you proxy this much, here we go. These Adepts with Flames, they're pushing out quite a bit of damage.
Oh my God, he actually shades forward. Look at this. A Stasis Ward at the top of the map ramp as well. Grabs just a couple roaches with that, but slowing him down at all.
I would think 2 Adepts behind, but we unfortunately don't see that. But the Adepts do go back onto this hatchery. That's still quite bruised. The Queens are out of position. These Adepts are doing work, Artolsis.
Just some awesome shading going around. Classic really knowing what he's capable of with this army. More units being made by Rogue. But you know what? Rogue does know how to play from positions like this.
Yeah, but this is going to be difficult because the Robo is proxied as well. So that means that Immortals are going to show up to this party quite quickly. And what I guess the only thing you can really make here is just an insane amount of roaches and then get some Ravages as well. Because there are still a lot of Adepts alive. So Zerglings are simply not going to be that effective.
Well, looks like he's been watching this all along. He's completely aware of the type of army he's up against. More Ravagers being made. That Roach speed almost halfway done here. And Rogue even throwing down some Spine Crawlers.
Yeah, you need anything basically at this point. With all the Queens in the mix, I mean, it could be alright. But Rogue is quite broke. And Ravagers are kind of expensive.
Yeah, there's no doubt. But you know what? With this many Adepts, Glaives, now he's building up some force field energy as well. I feel like Classic knows exactly what to do in this situation.
I mean, he's probably not going to commit in like the worst spot ever either. I'd love to see an observer. I think one observer could be massive. It seems like Classic is just going to step on creep like this.
Oh my god, look at that beautiful force fields going down, trapping a couple of these Ravagers and killing them off. It looks like Classic's lost almost nothing so far, but he is using up a lot of force field energy.
Don't forget that the War Prism is now showing up, and that's going to make his life a lot easier. Classic is probably a little bit like, I'm still on 2 bases. Like, do I have to do this? Well, doesn't really matter, but he wants to do it apparently. Drops more force fields. Careful with the War Prism. The Prism is down.
Oh, it looks like though he is dealing a lot of damage here. Transfusions going down absolutely everywhere. The Queen's getting wiped out. Roaches working their way forward. The Vial's going down, but missing some good micro there from Classic. Still 3 Immortals left over.
Yeah, the Immortal Focus Fire is very important here. You want to target the Roaches, and that is what he's doing in the end. Look how quickly those Roaches fall when the Immortals are actually shooting at Roaches and not at those Queens, not at those Fours. It seems like this is going to be enough as Rogue is starting to run out of units.
Yeah, and Classic even backing up right now. He does not want to fight against that stack defense right away. Waiting just a moment here, making another round of Adepts, another Sentry, another Immortal. He knows that this game is in hand.
Yep. Obviously, you were always a bit intimidated when you see the spines there. It's like, I don't have to fight there. At this point, it's all right. The only uncomfortable position for... Ooh, a little bit scared there for Classic, is that if Classic truly decides to go home, right? Let's say you want to go home, you want to go up to 3 bases.
Yeah.
That's awkward because you have so much of your production on the right top side of the map.
Well, I don't think he's going home, okay? We haven't seen a Forge, we haven't seen a 3rd Nexus. I mean, even Rogue dropping creep where he might expand to next.
The Immortal count is at 2 at this point, though. I mean, this army looks very impressive by Classic, but it's a lot of Adepts, and yeah, the Adepts can buffer and they can soak up shots. The Adepts are not necessarily fantastic against the Roaches.
Oh, it looks like he finishes 2 Adept Shades, goes into the natural here, trying to get some economic damage done, but good micro from Rogue. Only loses a single drone.
I like the attempt, though. It's always worth to try. 2 Adepts are not going to make a difference in that fight. Seems like Classic had enough. This time he's really committing.
Some great force fields going down once again, picking off some of these very valuable Ravagers or Adepts coming in from that Prism, keeping it back so it cannot be sniped. And almost only Roaches left over. The Immortals doing huge work here.
I love how Rogue is bringing the Spore Crawlers forward, getting a couple of shots off on the Prism, but it seems like it's not going to be enough. These Immortals have simply done way too much damage to all of the Roaches. A few Lings are not going to make the difference either. Classic is doing it.
Beautiful game right there, and GG comes out from Rogue. Classic tying up the series 1-1 with a beautiful mind game and a beautiful all-in strategy.
I love how he was trying to sell it so hard, making that second Phoenix, making the second Stargate in the main base. He's like, please build more drones, more spores. I'm not sure if Rogue totally bought it. And then obviously the Zergling scouted what was actually happening. But once again, these one-off builds of the Protosses are finding a lot of success.
Absolutely. It's, again, a very well-planned strategy from Classic. But at the same time, I want to mention, I feel like Rogue showed a lot of his strength there as well. When he realized that he was getting all in, he immediately fell back. Well, we're going to see how game number 3 goes after a quick commercial break.
BlizzCon 2019 is brought to you by T-Mobile. Their newest signal goes farther than ever, and it's built 5G ready. MSI, True Gaming. Intel, the official CPU partner of BlizzCon. Cisco, the official networking partner of BlizzCon. And by HyperX. We're all gamers. BlizzCon 2019 is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of BlizzCon. Facebook Gaming, a world of play. Samsung SSD, performance gamers trust. Corsair, do your thing. And by NVIDIA.
Welcome back. Here we are, game number 3. Classic was just able to tie it up against Rogue.
Yes, with a very cool build. I mean, once again, like, we want to see more of that kind of stuff, because in a lot of the games where the Protoss becomes too predictable, especially against Rogue, Rogue's like, all right, thank you very much. I know how to deal with this. And I mean, we already have 2 Zergs in the upper part of the bracket in the semi-final, Raynor against Serral. It would be cool to see at least 1, if not 2, non-Zergs advance as well on the bottom side of the bracket.
Well, Classic is our last hope for Protoss. He is the last Protoss left in this tournament so far. Let's not forget as well, this is his last big tournament. He's going to be going to the Korean military very, very soon. It was even up in the air if he could be here at BlizzCon.
Yep, it actually took a long time. We were all, of course, very happy to see that in the end he was able to make it, and he made it out of the round of 16 as well. I mean, he deserved it. He had another fantastic year, like so many before. But this time, I'm sure that he would love to go all the way.
Indeed he would, but here we are, game number 3 on Disco Bloodbath. In the top left, the 2017 BlizzCon World Champion, he is Rogue! And his opponent reaching the top 4 at BlizzCon twice in the past, looking for his first championship. He is Classic.
The last Protoss standing. Oh, that's right. I think that's why people starting to get behind him here a little bit as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's fitting that he is the last Protoss standing. You know, he kind of has this little bit of a nickname over in Korea as Protoss Incarnate. You know, he really represents Protoss. He's a very tricky, creative player. He mixes it up a lot of aggressive plays as well. And I think that's what we need to see. If you are going to defeat these best Zergs in the world, you need to show the strongest, most creative aggression that you have.
Yep, it needs to be wild. It needs to be so unpredictable that maybe you don't even know what you're doing anymore at one point. And just make it harder for these guys. Classic, of course, once upon a time a Terran player. That's something we don't talk about often, but that's kind of how he got started.
Yeah, he was actually a Brood War Terran player, Starcraft 1 Terran player. And back in the day, we had a draft, just like in our sports, as I like to call them, real sports.
Oh my God.
And he was actually the #1 draft pick. That's how talented he was. And I mean, here he is. He's, you know, several championships later in StarCraft 2, showing that still.
Yep. He's been a very fun player to follow over the years, and we're gonna miss him, but I'm sure that he will come back. Like they pretty much always come back to us.
Yeah, there's a very good chance, I think.
So we'll see. First links are out on the way for Rogue. Of course, it's going to be very important to scout. I mean, you always want to scout when you go up against Protoss, but I think after what happened in the previous game, we're going to see even more links running around and just checking every single corner of these maps. Once again, pretty much every single map that you're going to see in this best of 5 is big. So yes, it is a little bit of work, but you got to work for it then.
Yeah, you certainly do. There's no excuses to be made here. Win or go home. Now, Disco Bloodbath, what do you think about this map for Protoss vs. Zerg, Roddy?
I kind of like it, and I'm one of the very few. Like, I'm a Protoss player. It's a little different than most of those other Protosses out there, but I think it's a great Stargate map. I also think it's a map where you can drag it into the late game a little bit more. But, you know, often when you say late game, it's like, you can go up against 35 Infestors and Broodlords and 50 Spore Crawlers. Like, I'm not talking about that late game, you know? There's a late game before that. And in that way, I kind of like it. I also think it's a good map for some weird adapt movement, right? Because there's a lot of high ground, low ground, little corners here and there. And just stocking them somewhere if the Zerg moves out, like if a Zerg actually commits to an attack without a Nidus, now with Rogue here, that's unlikely going to happen, but if they do that, they're actually very susceptible to any sort of damage at home because the units are often just too far out of position.
Well, it does seem like Classic might agree with you on that, Roddy. He's adding a couple gateways here and just producing Adepts non-stop, so we could see just some light Adept pressure with his Stargate units coming up.
We do have our Twilight Council as well. Not exactly sure where he's building it. Rogue's getting into the main base without Overlord speed at this point, but he's getting Overlord speed as well. Adepts, oh, you're gonna I think he has 2 more. He's probably looking at the Oracles. What is killing drones? Something was killing drones.
Ah, there it is. Well, getting a couple kills is pretty normal for a single Oracle.
It's a shame though, because if those Adepts are, let's say, between mineral patches or in a corner somewhere, that amount of Zerglings would have actually not been enough, right? So
yeah,
a little bit sloppy there by Classic, and well done, of course, by Rogue.
But it's not necessarily a game-ending situation. Suddenly, the Overlord does get taken down, but it saw the Twilight. Glaives are on the way, which kind of makes me even sadder that he lost those 2 Adepts.
Exactly. Like, I mean, every Adept matters at that point. You can't be building Adepts forever, because eventually they will start falling off. Not if they're backed by 3 Immortals and a Warp Prism, like in the previous game, and you're going up against a 2-base Zerg. But in most scenarios, Adepts are good for a little while, and then it falls off. Now this Scout though, if you're Rogue, would you immediately be like, oh, this is Glaives? Now you know, but I think that to that point you didn't know yet.
Well, he looks like he's doing a big shade forward right now. He gets up there, and there's just Zerglings for the time being. Of course, Glaives not done quite yet, but Classic keeping that pressure on.
Yep, Glaives more than halfway done. Now it was, I think, a decent fight against the Lynx. This shade is going to finish up as well, so he's in the main base. There is quite some surface area for the Lynx, but the Link count isn't really there anymore, and that's where you want to have your Adepts. This is actually paying off already, even before Glaives is done.
Look at that, another shade actually getting out of here right now as Glaives is very close to finishing. Gonna go ahead and save 4 of these Adepts. More gates on the way, and Immortal as well.
This is so funny, right? Because how often do you see 7 Adepts shade into a main base before Glaives is even done? Now we have some more Adepts. He could keep all of them together, but he could also start splitting them up a little bit, because the Roach count isn't that high yet.
Yeah, well, it seems like he's just going for some massive damage at the moment. Oh, even more gateways coming out, so it seems like once again, Classic just deciding to put on all the pressure available to him.
Yep, Warp Prism on the mix. We're on the way now as well. That Stasis Trap is not going to work out. The Queen's a little bit exposed. Where are the Roaches? Okay, oh, well, good juke there. Gonna get some damage on this hatchery at least.
Very nice cancel right there. Moves through this 3rd base, gonna shade again, but only Queen's chasing. Roach is back, getting ready to catch this, but does get canceled once again.
I'm curious to see if Rogue is actually gonna start making drones or more units. For now, it's more units, and we know that that's the correct choice, because Classic is not going up to 3 bases yet. Classic actually made an Immortal, he's getting a couple of sentries. Yeah, this Scout is going to be massive.
Yeah, it seems like Rogue's still keeping on top of this, trying to figure out what else is going on here. Classic trying to hide the Prism and the Immortal, but the Overlord going to fly right in.
Now he's going to spot the Robo Bay. I mean, Rogue is actually making a few more drones. I really thought that this Overlord was going to spot the Immortal and the Sentry and the Prism. That did not happen, but Rogue is making more Spine Thrillers now. He's like, a Robo Bay! I'm not buying it, but we could see some Disruptors, right? Disruptors are good in these low eco
games.
Yes,
absolutely. I mean, if you're going to counter this army with a bunch of Roach Ravager, that's not so good at dodging disruption. So
he canceled it, unfortunately.
Ah, too bad. Well, you know what? If that's going to help him to buy a few more Sentries and Depths, let's do it.
This is so many Adepts, by the way. Would you just shade on top of the army? Or maybe he's going to drop a force field in the main base. I don't know how this is going to work.
Oh, he actually throws down force fields there at the natural, blocking a huge chunk of the army. That means that he can move forward with his main army here, picking off some units and some structures.
Losing the Prism is so terrifying, though. You need that Warp Prism because there's only one Immortal in that mix, and this Immortal needs to do all the damage.
Yeah, it really does. Some good force fields going down, but Rogue not even clearing them. Looks like Classic once again with a gigantic shade. This is going to force everything to run back a little bit, and he cancels it.
Yep. Losing the Prism is such a shame because otherwise that one Immortal can really start doing some serious work. But just relying on it without having a Prism there is a bit too scary. Now he builds the Robo Bay again, and I think this time he's serious.
Well, yeah, I think he has to have some other way of winning this game because it seems like this attack You've used up a lot of your sentry energy. As you said, Roddy, only one immortal here. It just doesn't pack as much of a punch anymore.
No, I mean, in the previous game it worked because it was A against the 2 Vaser, and B, he had 3 immortals in the mix. And 3 immortals or 1 immortal makes a massive difference. I think Rogue's roam count is also perfect, right? Like 57. It's enough where he can comfortably make units and even lose a couple, but it's not so many that we're like, oh my god, Rogue, where are your units? I like the double Robo Bay though. Like, you got to do something here.
Yeah.
I think just sitting back and expanding is going to be almost impossible. So why not try to make a couple of disruptors? If you can get 3 or 4 out, this is suddenly a completely winnable game again.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the greatest comeback mechanics that Protoss really has. If you don't dodge one time, that disruption, it just does so much damage.
Rogue is at a 172 supply, but once again, this map is massive. Can he take the fight off creep? It seems like he kind of wants to before disruptors are out. I'm not sure though. I'm still kind of like, Classic is in a bad spot, but I feel like there's potential.
You know what? I feel like he'll hold. He has a lot of force fields here. He can change to high ground situations on top of ramps and whatnot. But in the meantime, Rogue adding a Baneling Nest, getting a lot more Lings in there as well.
Now, of course, like if Rogue can get 40, 50 Banes, then it's going to be horrific to deal with, especially with all these adepts. But I still kind of like it. Classic is going to try to buy some time here with the War Prism. Of course, like he's economically going to pretty much always be behind. You don't want to lose this Prism right before speed is done. But I can see this War Prism with speed soon kicking in and then 2 disruptors actually become very annoying to deal with.
Yeah.
If all you have is roaches, right?
That could be very, very strong. Now, of course, his buildings are actually giving him a little bit of a problem here. His disruptor's having a hard time getting out of the base.
He even took out this one pylon, right? Thinking that
Yeah.
it would be enough.
Looks like he might have to do a little bit
Wow.
more. We have 5 disruptors stuck in the main.
5 disruptors though, that's actually quite sick, right? Bailing speed is not done yet. I guess by the time they will fight, it will actually finish up. Rogue is getting his +1 melee. That's going to be very useful, especially if he can ever get +2, then he can start doing some real economic damage. But with disruptors, maybe.
You know what? I love the army that Classic is making, but the fact that we are getting drop overlords right now for Rogue,
That's sick.
there's just so little anti-air here. You can drop Banelings all over this very clumped up Protoss army, and that will do massive damage.
Yeah, that's actually a brilliant call by Rogue. Oh my goodness.
We never see games that look like this on either side. These two really pulling out all the stops.
Yeah, I love it. It makes perfect sense. There's barely any anti-air in this army, and Adepts, they like to clump up. Sentries like to clump up. But we'll see. Classic is not worried about that at this point. He wants to start firing forward those Purification Novas.
All right, the first one comes out, gets a lot of Morphing Banes, not bad.
Also gets the Scout up, so he has a couple of Stalkers now.
Oh, some more Disruptors being shot out. Looks like some Baneling drops actually heading for his mineral line. The rest going for his army. Some huge drops here from Rogue. Force Fields go down, but a lot of Banelings connecting.
Yeah, the splits were good, but there's still so much Zerg. Classic losing a lot of important units. And so far, these Novas are not really connecting in the way you want. 40 more Lings on the way.
Oh, another good one does come out right there, but again, the Banelings dealing a lot of damage to these Adepts. More Stalkers being mixed in. And it looks like only about 6 probes died to the Baneling drop, so at least he defended that reasonably well.
Yeah, but even those 6 probes represented quite a bit of his economy because he didn't have much to work with. These shots are good and they're getting better. But he needs to do a few more of those. There's a lot of Lings that have been produced, and I think the biggest problem is going to be Banelings, right? Nothing in this army is good at like killing Banelings before they blow up stuff.
The best you can do really is to throw down some force fields and stop them in their tracks. You're definitely right though, it's hard to kill those Banelings, especially on creep.
And you have nothing here really that wants to absorb Banelings either. Maybe Stalkers, but I mean Rogue is not going to blow them all up on Stalkers individually.
Looks like right now Rogue focusing on that Prism. He's getting sick of these Disruptor drops.
Classic is losing more and more probes at home. He still has a couple here, but it's becoming painful. Hive is on the way. I mean, Classic needs to make stuff happen now. He's even in army supply, so 1 or 2 big hits of those Disruptors, and it's possible.
Oh, another Disruptor goes up, misses that time. Spotting with that Prism. Some decent force fields come down. Still Banelings finding a way to hit.
Yeah, but he also saved the Disruptor. I love it. It's like a saved couple. Gonna get a few more sentries. This is really it. Yes, Classic is on 3 bases, but he's committed. He wants to end this game. way before Hive Tech finishes up, and preferably before +2 finishes up as well on those links and baits.
Oh, good pickup there from Classic. Here comes the Army. That's a huge one. The Disruptor gets a lot of banes, but there are so many banelings here rolling in. The flank is gigantic, and that is that. GG. Rogue absolutely demolishing Classic in that final fight.
That was sick. At one point you're like, wow, those hits are good, but the banes just never stopped. They came in from every angle. And yes, we had force fields, but we didn't have that many force.
Oh, I don't even know how many force fields you need in that situation. Rogue just pounced upon Classic. I feel like Classic gave himself, though, a lot of opportunities to do big damage, to come back. He was fighting well, but Rogue was too clever with these Baneling drops and flanks.
I just think going Banelings in the first place is a brilliant call there, right? Like, if he would have just sticked on Roaches, or maybe he goes for a Spire or something along those lines. Like, yes, those things could have worked, but it could have been very awkward. There was simply no better unit available to Rogue than the Baneling. First in the drops, then to harass, and eventually to swallow up the whole army.
Well, we see that Classic is doing his best here, right? He's really brought out some very interesting things that we haven't thought of, we haven't seen. But he only has one more chance. That's it. He has to win these next 2 games or he's out.
I wonder how this would have played out if he wouldn't have cancelled the Robobay the first time, right? And this all would have been a bit faster. Because like Rogue did have a little bit of extra time to mine up that third, even getting that fourth base up and running. And like, you know, 53 drones or 65, and then, especially when it comes to Banelings, makes a massive difference. Because Banelings are quite cheap, so if you have the better economy, you can suddenly make so many more. It was a good try by Classic, I think, but wasn't enough.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, so we've seen the proxy play in the second game on Acropolis. That did get him the victory, right? That was very well executed Immortal push with a lot of adepts and sentries. We saw something not exactly the same here in Game 3, but Falling, what do you want to see in Game 4 out of Classic if he's to take this map?
Well, like, if he opens up with as much aggression as he just showed, you can't lose the Prism. Like, we almost forget about it, right? Because the ending was really spectacular, but it all started with that first attack, a lot of adepts and a single Immortal, but he lost that Warp Prism. If he doesn't lose the Prism there, you could be potentially casting a completely different game as well.
All right, Triton, our next map, the smallest one out of the set.
I mean, you ask me what I want to see, I always only want to see one thing. And it's disgusting, but it's double Stargate Phoenix.
Well, we'll see if Classic thinks that that's his best last chance here. Rogue on match point, looking for that BlizzCon round of 4.
Yeah, Rogue looking really good. Obviously no stranger to this stage. We walked past his poster. Looked mighty fine on it here in the hallways of this beautiful convention as we're getting ready for Game 4. We are loading into Triton.
In the top left, on match point, ready to try to get to the round of 4. Give it up for Rogue! And his opponent in his last big tournament before going to the Army, looking for his 3rd round of 4. Make some noise for Classic! Last Protoss in the tournament right now.
Oh, Dan, look at that!
Oh, of course! Of course, when your life is on the line as a Protoss, you cannon rush.
Remember what happened in Game 1? He dropped the pylon. Rogue didn't respect it.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, is this going to be one of those all-out cannon rushes?
It certainly is. I think we're going to see a Robo. We're going to see Immortals, a Prism.
Shield batteries, a lot of them.
Oh, yeah.
All right, I mean, this is it. Tournament Live is on the line. I know we have quite a few cannon rushes in this building. A couple of my friends that are here watching. I know that all they do is cannon rush all the time. It's so funny though, right? Because these Protoss players, they are the very best in the world. But often when it comes to some of these super cheesy builds, it's like, it's not optimal, it's not perfect. So far, I think this is looking very good. But he can't build a cannon there though, right?
I think that's too tight for a cannon, but I think he's just trying to save health on his probe so that the cannon finishes.
Yep, and cancel one. I think he will cancel one pylon.
Exactly, I agree with that. So the pylon finishes. This is so well prepared from Classic. This looks so scary.
Spines are going up, though. I think that first spine is going to be able to get a couple hits off, but the beauty of Protoss is that you only need a single probe to warp in a lot of these cannons. So I think eventually, if you're Rogue here, you probably want to pull a couple of drones.
Yeah, no, I think so.
The first links are on the way already, though. Classic, I hope that you've done the math on this one.
All right, he's making a shield battery here as well. Let's see what he can get done. It looks like, only 2 cannons get up.
Wow, he gets the shots off first, though. Those cannons are getting the shots off first. The first spine crawler already taking an insane amount of damage.
Oh, he breaks through that first spine. Ling's getting on top of everything. The probe being pulled back. Good micro there. It looks like some of these cannons might end up falling. One gets taken out, the other being targeted down by the queens in the spine.
Shield battery so close to finishing up, but it doesn't finish up in time. There's still a cannon on the low ground protecting this. Now a cannon is about to finish up, and this is where the shield batteries are going to shine.
All right, well, only one shield battery is going to heal at a time. He's trying to out-DPS that healing. The queen, the spine, the lings, all on top of this cannon, but the cannon is going to be able to push the queen back.
But more links are starting to show up there. That cannon on the low ground still helping out as well. Good cancel there by Classic. So far, I feel like everything's doing well. The batteries are about to run out of energy, but this cannon has an insane amount of kills.
Oh my god, this cannon right now on 9 kills pushes back that spine crawler, and it looks like this cannon rush is starting to be successful.
There is your Robo, getting the Robo in the main base as well. I love that Classic, by the way, for the entirety of this game has been on 0 army supply.
Well, this probe really is an army of one, building everything he needs. It's like just barely having to cancel a few of these buildings.
I want to get in range with the Robo. Yeah, that's something that you definitely have to worry about, right? You don't want to end up losing your Robo. Queens and spines can definitely push out some damage, but don't forget, we have a lot of batteries here on the right side that can heal this Robo for quite some time.
That is very true. Now he's having to chrono boost out a Stalker at home to push these Zerglings back. Kind of annoying, a nice move by Rogue, but not the end of the world for Classic.
These buildings shouldn't go down. Oh, Stalker maybe on the wrong side, or maybe that's on purpose actually.
Yeah.
But he's gonna have to micro. No, these are speed links.
Uh-oh.
Recall it?
Good call there, Roddy. I can tell you've cannon rushed once or twice at least.
No, in the early days. It's so addictive, man. Once you start, you can't stop, so I stopped.
Well, look at this. He's looking like he might be able to take a second game against Rogue, so I totally get it. The first Immortal about to pop out here. That spine is very low on health.
Yeah, the Immortal is out. I'm surprised that he doesn't go Immortal Prison. Just double Immortal immediately.
Yeah, I think he has enough shield batteries here that he's feeling pretty confident.
Yeah.
Of course, we do have some roaches being made right now into Ravagers, so that's really the cheap way for Rogue to fight against this.
I truly love this Immortal. It's walking around like, who wants a piece of me? You know? It's like, someone has a problem with me. It's like, here I am, do something about it.
Well, he's got all his robotic friends back there to heal him up and support him, so...
He pretends he's alone, but he's not.
No, he certainly is not. Oh, you see that? He actually got the other Immortal stuck here.
Oh, no. Well, now you definitely need a prison.
Yeah, top to the bottom because he built a building there, and then he canceled the building. So a little mistake here from Classic in the heat of battle, but I don't think that's going to change it.
I would say that's the first real mistake he made, though.
Yeah.
I'm a bit surprised that he made a cannon at home, considering the fact that he recalled the Stalker as well. Like, I think one Stalker should have been enough. I don't know if it's... Oh, roaches, okay.
Maybe just playing extra safe at this point.
I mean, against the roaches, I kind of like having the cannon.
Yeah. All right, now we have double Immortal Prism, and that's it. Rogue just got a GG at that point. I was going to make a joke about how invincible this situation is, and yes, Rogue knows it as well. So exits that game promptly, which means, of course, we get to go to a game number 5.
Awesome, man. Classic cannon rushing there, and often we're critical of these pro gamers when they cannon rush because they make a lot of mistakes. This one, I think, was pretty damn good. He kept his probe alive at all costs. I think he was building the cannons at the right moment. Every single time he was forced to cancel, he canceled. I loved everything about it, and another game 5 for us already.
I know. I want to get into that game 5 right now, but first, a commercial break. And when we come back, we find out who's our third round of 4 player.
BlizzCon 2019 is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of BlizzCon. Facebook Gaming, a world of play.
So Josh, you going for our Drive Safe and Safe discount?
Yep, using the app, driving safe.
You wanna go, bro?
Do not mess with my discount.
Get a discount up to 30% with Drive Safe and Save.
The future waits for no one, so we refuse to wait for it. We're not just pilots and engineers. We are pioneers. Today, battles are waged in nanoseconds, and planes are piloted from the other side of the world. We turn night into day and fly missions in space. The future's not coming. It's already here. This is the future. Join us and be the future.
All right, we are back, and it is time for game number 5 between Rogue and Classic, two storied Korean pro gamers, one of which is our last Protoss in the tournament.
It's impossible not to be happy, right? Back-to-back game 5s, that's what we want. We saw Cannon Rush. I mean, that's not something we always see at this level, and it worked. The execution was perfect. I can't wait. I mean, Classic really has been throwing a lot of curveballs. We can say a lot of things, but not that he's been predictable, because he's not been predictable at all. I can't wait to see what he has in store for us. Can't wait to see if the last Protoss standing can sneak into the semifinals of BlizzCon 2019.
Well, our last map is World of Sleepers. This is kind of notoriously hard against Zerg. They do get that rich gas very quickly. There's a lot of places to pop up Nidus worms that can be a little bit difficult to get your army over to. So again, I feel like we need to see a rush from Classic. Let's see it. Cannon Rush, I don't know about that, but something aggressive. All right, over here in the top right, playing for a spot in the round of 4, he is Rogue. And in the bottom left, a Protoss we have all seen go through absolutely everything in perhaps his last professional game ever. Give it up for Classic!
It's absolutely been one hell of a series so far. The previous best of 5 also ended on the World of Sleepers. And we did see those Nidus here. We did see those Swarmals being very impactful, especially in the later stages of the game. Curious to see if Classic has something in store for us. Like, the hard thing here is, though, if you just sit back forever as a Protoss player, if Zerg players do start taking those bases with the one Vespian guys, but the one that's rich, they just feel even richer than they already feel in some of those other games. And a lot of the Protoss players have said, I think he's going to take it again.
Yeah. That probe movement screamed Cannon Rush, but of course he's just trying to cause Rogue's heart to go pitter-patter here.
If you're a rogue, you're definitely talking to yourself right now, like, don't you dare.
Absolutely. You see the dancing of this drone right now. He even sent it out at a very defensive time.
Right now, mental advantage 1-0 in favor of Classic,
Yes.
for sure. He's like, I'm getting to him.
But that is, of course, not going to be enough. We have to see what type of tech he's going to go for. Are we going to see him go into that Stargate play once again?
I do think so. Yeah, like opening without a Stargate is just kind of crazy, right? At that point, I don't want to say you're gambling, but it just feels like that is the most solid way to start. But a lot of people, they will like, oh, you open Stargate every game, but it's not about that. Like, there's so many different ways to play Stargate. Is he just gonna go one Oracle and then transition? Is it Phoenix into an Oracle, 2 Oracles, 3 Oracles, maybe even double Stargate, right? There are so many different ways to play that every Stargate opening is not the same, even though they may look like it.
Well, it's not going to be a Stargate, Rotterdam. He's already started that Warp Gate upgrade, and there it is, throwing down the Twilight right away.
So either he's going for a good old DT drop, or he's really crazy and he opens up Resonating Glaive straight off the bat.
Well,
I mean, I'd love it, but
I'm down.
It's
Whatever is going to give Classic a chance here to show what he's got. A Stalker coming out, of course, a lot of times that's to kill off any Overlords trying to scout what you're up to. The Probe scouts the third base.
Classic, what is it going to be? We don't see a Robo yet. Doesn't have to guess, or it could just be straight up Glaives.
Yeah, it's a possibility. It could be straight up DT tech as well.
Yeah, that's really...
There it is. All right.
Does he have... Wait, I see something blue on the minimap. What's that?
The Probe?
I thought I saw something. I guess I'm seeing it wrong. Yeah.
Oh, a proxy pylon out there so he can warp in his quick DTs. This is basically the quickest DTs that you will ever see in professional StarCraft 2. So there is the possibility that he just knocks Rogue down with this immediately.
I mean, it's a crazy play. There you do have one Spore Crawler, but often if Zerg players are not sure what they're going up against, they don't build 3 Spores, right? They have like 1 Spore. It's like the safety Spore. I can always fall back to this Spore. But, you know, losing 2 out of 3 bases is still pretty bad.
It's pretty awful, no doubt about that. Now, look, everything at home for Classic looking kind of normal, right? He's adding his gases, he's getting a robotics, he's making some more gateways.
It's close to finishing up already. That Dark Shrine is close to finishing up. I mean, those are going to be slow warp-ins. For people who haven't played StarCraft in a while, if your pylon is not connected to a warp gate or a nexus, your warp-ins will take longer. But, I mean, they still be on the other side of the map immediately, so you're still buying time.
Oh, here we go. 2 DTs being warped in right now. I believe there's only 1 Spore. It looks like another Spore is being started. So Rogue is preparing for something coming in, whether it's Oracles or DTs.
Well, he's going to see it now. The Overlord has seen it. Where's that second Spore Crawler? Can we take a look at that real quick? Good friend, Awesome Sauce. I think the second one is at the third base. The DTs can kill this Spore.
Oh, yeah, they can. But look at this.
What?
Trying to actually surround everything right now. This DT going to work right now. The other DT went up into the main base. Looks like that one gets surrounded.
Wait, did he cancel the one in the
Yeah, I think he did actually. Oh, a nice transfusion goes down.
Okay, this was really cool and everything, but can we talk about what's happening on the production tab?
Oh my god.
Why is he getting Blink?
He's getting Dark Templar Blink right now. This is something you almost never see.
You can see there's a really cool animation at the top, by the way.
This is crazy, Roddy.
Yeah, I know.
What am I watching here? Look at this. He's just making DTs a Prism and DT Blink.
Yeah, he's gonna snipe buildings. So he's gonna blink in, snipe a Spore Crawler. Like, I cannot believe that Classic is doing this. This is something you do on a Friday night when you're playing ladder, when there's not much, when you're trying to entertain your audience. You don't do this in Game 5 of the Global Finals, but the Mad Lad is actually doing it.
Well, this is about as clutch as you can possibly get doing a build like this.
Yeah, if it works, but if it
This looks like something our 2-time world champion SOS would try out. So, oh my god, crazy. I have never seen this before.
No, nobody has.
How many DTs is he going to make? He's just going to jump on the Spores.
Is there an overseer? I mean, what do you think? He's got an observer as well. He's going to blink into the main base here with high ground vision. Roaches are on the way though. All that Rogue needs to do is get a lot of roaches out. He doesn't have the right amount of roaches right now, I believe.
Oh, he's waiting for a second blink right now. Classic is so all in. These DTs have to do a lot.
All the links are on the other side of the map as well. Rogue's very confused. Rogue's making drones, by the way. There goes the lair.
Oh, going after the lair right now. Right clicking with so many Dark Templars, and look at this. Takes it down in a matter of seconds.
I cannot believe what we're watching. He's going to recall all of these attempts as well.
from Classic, and now the tech of Rogue absolutely reset.
This is sick. This is absolutely sick. I mean, Rogue does still have 2 bases. He can still make an insane amount of roaches, and he didn't lose that many drones, but this reminds me a little bit of what we saw in Acropolis, even though it's, of course, super different. Now he's going to morph them into Archons, and he's just going to go into that Immortal Archon, maybe Zealot composition.
Yeah,
with the
I mean, you just killed off a base.
It's sick.
The
What a
lair,
move.
nonetheless, which, you know what that means? Stormhost Nidus? Nope, sorry, that's not going to happen. So you have to play with these low-tech units right now.
Very good, by the way. They decided road speed before losing the lair out of it. That would have
Yeah,
been a disaster.
That would have been.
I mean, these queens are actually very important, so it's very important for Rogue. It keeps them alive. You don't want to lose them. Even just burning off some energy here. I think if I'm Classic, I'd be like,
Yeah.
it's something.
Oh, this is totally worthwhile for him to do while he's setting up that 3rd base. He's waiting for some upgrades to finish that +1 in charge. Both very important.
He's got another DP in the lane. Yeah, don't forget that, like, even though he morphed a lot of his DPs into the Archons, he can always utilize the fact that he already has a Dark Shrine, and he's got Shadow Strike, also known as Blink DP, as we like to call it. I mean, he can be so annoying with it.
Yes, he can. Looking forward to seeing when he jumps in there to deal that damage. Yeah, it looks like the DT still doing some harassment.
Oh my goodness. I really have the feeling that Classic is taking control of this game at this point.
Yes.
What an opening, what a build, what a moment to bring it out.
Well,
Wow.
look at the numbers here, right? 52 workers for Rogue, 47 for Classic. That's totally reasonable. Army supplies the same when your opponent's on roaches? Yes, every day of the week for Protoss, you want that situation.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a higher tech army, he's got more of it, or at least by the looks of it. I mean, now +1 melee is gonna go down, but we saw that in some of the games that Reyno dropped as well. Like, Banelings can be very effective against his army, but you need an insane economy for that to be the case, right? And that economy, Rogue simply doesn't have it right now. Rogue is going for a little run-by. He's gonna grab a couple probes here, but he's also pretty good defensively.
Yeah, I mean, it does a little bit of damage. What he really wanted is for Classic to turn around. Looks like he comes in with the Overseer. He anticipated this occurring, but the DT's still doing okay. Now the attack comes in. Classic going for the kill right now with a gigantic army.
Yeah, no time to waste. It's still very scary though. That's a lot of Ravagers, and Rogue's micro is good. I think Rogue is doing this well so far. Rogue wants to keep on running, and Classic just wants to force the fight.
Well, there's 4 Immortals in here. He's dealing huge amounts of damage. Those Archons tanking so much, it looks like he might be taking out the 3rd base of Rogue.
That is a massive pickup. There's an Evolution Chamber on the right side as well. The drones are stacked up. Classic can be botted. Classic just wants to get on top of the Ravagers, and most of the roaches are gone already.
Oh, Rogue has almost nothing left at this point. The bios go down. A good dodge here from Classic as he walks forward, trying to pin these units up against the wall. Rogue running into his natural, almost nothing left over.
All of these roaches and Ravagers are clumped up. The Archons are getting the best shots up ever. Classic is doing it. What a game. What a series. Wow.
Oh, GG! And that is it. Classic, the win toss, gets to the round of 4 of BlizzCon once again, and Protoss does not go extinct.
I have absolute goosebumps everywhere. This man deserves a standing ovation.